Hello! Ahoy, hoy! Welcome to another glorious episode of Captain C's Review. And today, the C stands for cartoon. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the Looney Tune movies. Ah, yes! But not the one you think we'd be talking about. No, I'm not talking about Space Jam. No. And I'm also not talking about Looney Tune back in action. Now, some of you might be wondering, is there a third one? Yes. The Looney Tunes actually have a couple of movies. Most of them are clip shows. But they tie in a bunch of random Looney Tunes sketches and cartoons, and they connect them through an overall theme, and you redo some of them so that they fit within a story arc element. But that's not the one I'm talking about today. No, this one actually is a movie, and it was advertised as such. Though it didn't make it to the big screen, it did make a couple of debuts on Cartoon Network's lineup as a TV special. But it is in fact a movie. It runs to about an hour and 10 minutes, so technically you could say that it's just a TV special, but it does have the production value of an actual movie. So, I'm going to call it the Looney Tune movie. This one is Tweety's High-Flying Adventure. This movie is very under the radar. It doesn't usually get talked about when talking about Looney Tunes. And frankly, I think it's because of Tweety. We'll get to it in a minute. The point is, another way to call this is Tweety Around the World in 80 Days. This movie is both a Looney Tune thing and a parody of Around the World in 80 Days. Both great ideas. Putting them together, it's a little odd, but I'm willing to take a viewing. So let's talk about it. The movie opens up pretty basically. We're introduced to Sylvester and Tweety having a little bit of their antics while Granny walks to this billionaires club of New York or Manhattan or whatever. Or England. It's England. That's right. It's England. So we take place in England, and Granny comes across this park with these two little adorable children who say, "Oh, Granny, could you spare a shilling or whatever? Can you spare a pound? They're going to be closing the park soon." So yeah, Granny, of course, touched by this, she says that she'll find a way to save the park. So she walks into the club, which how she's a member of this club is beyond me. Don't quite understand how she has her membership, but I digress. We're introduced to actually an old school character. Very old school. He's kind of like a Hunter character. He was a Looney Tune character that was created kind of around the time of the Pink Panther. Kind of a similar concept, but it's not the Pink Panther guy. And as a kid, I always thought that it was him, but it's not. It's like General Clevis or something. Pompadour or something. His name doesn't really matter because he doesn't show up ever at all. So I'm just gonna call him Mr. Unorthodox. Mr. Unorthodox. So Mr. Unorthodox is talking about how he has been constantly bested by a Looney Tune character known as Cool Cat. And as he's constantly bested to him, he says, "Well, it's best that I be outsmarted by a creature of equal intellect to humans." And Granny, of course, is befuddled by this because she has seen many a cat do very dumb things, like put their tails in electrical sockets. Granny's been around, so she questions that's nonsense. And then the guy's like, "Oh, but yeah, no, cats are highly intelligent. They're smarter than any other animal on the planet. They can't be beaten. It's just a scientific fact." And Granny then says, No. I know a creature that is smarter than any cat on this planet. And, it's Tweety. Tweety is smarter than any cat. She states this. And then they I don't know exactly the progression we get to this little wager. But he says, I'd bet my entire fortune that your bird couldn't outsmart any cat. It's more ridiculous as believing that you could go around the world in 80 days. And then Granny's like, well, how about we do both then, Sonny? I bet my Tweety can sail across the world in 80 days, gaining a paw print from a cat in every continent that he travels to make it back here in 80 days with a completed portfolio of 100 cats. Oh, no, 80 cats for one cat paw print for every day. And then our movie begins. That's literally the setup for the movie. That's both the pitch and setup to the movie. Sylvester decides to follow him, of course, on this little adventure for nefarious reasons. And all the while, there's a lot of side plots that are going on throughout the movie. So, of course, we have Tweety going around the world in 80 days to save a park, because Granny plans to use the money that she wins from the bet to save the park. So after... so there's that. There's saving the park, around the world in 80 days. There's like this pickpocketer who keeps stealing people's passports, and he's stolen a royal passport. And because Granny somehow has connections with Queen Elizabeth and found a way, the Queen of England, to give Tweety a royal passport so that he can, travel the world without being questioned, including being on planes. Because, yeah, it's faster. And this pickpocketer guy wants to steal Tweety's royal passport to go along with his royal passport that he already stole, because there's also a subplot that a bunch of police officers are looking for him because the royal passport has been stolen. Whatever. And then there's another subplot of Sylvester going along on this trip because, and I quote, he says that no other feline is going to take my snack morsel from me. So Sylvester is going on this little quest as well in an attempt to catch Tweety so that no other cat eats him on his watch. Right? If anyone's going to eat the bird, it's going to be me. Which... I respect that. I respect that level of spite. I do. I honestly do. And also, some reason, there's singing involved. Yeah, I can't make that part up. There are songs. There are two. It's at the beginning and the middle. And there might be one at the end, but I don't remember it. But yeah, it's kind of weird. There's no other song in this except for one song at the beginning to kind of set up Tweety going on his adventure, and then another song about how a bunch of cats and a bunch of birds are debating whether or not he's going to make it to the end. They're the only songs, and they're put in there very randomly. You could honestly take them out and the movie wouldn't lose much, aside from a couple of jokes. And that brings me to the other side plot. So, apparently, another side plot is, while Tweety is going around the world in 80 days, Chicken Hawk, Foghorn Leghorn, and the chicken from his cartoons, they're all taking birdseed, and they're all taking bets over whether or not Tweety will make it, which I didn't know that they were running this whole gambling ring kind of situation, but apparently they are, and they're taking bets on Tweety. It's great. So not much happens from point A to point B in terms of relevant plot. It's just Tweety going around the world in 80 days. It's that simple. And because he's a bird, there's not really that much problems. Because he's a bird, he can just fly wherever he needs to go. The only ever trouble that they run into is, on occasion, Sylvester will show up to kind of try and stop Tweety or try to eat Tweety. So, that's about it. Now, throughout the movie, there's also cameos from other Looney Tune characters, being Daffy Duck, Bugs. The only one that I don't think makes an appearance is Elmer Fudd. But no, everyone shows up. Daffy, Bugs, the Tasmanian Devil, Pepe Le Pew, and of course, Sam. Gunslinging Sam! Which actually does bring me to another point. Kind of one of the weaknesses of the movie, at least as a Looney Tune fan. The voices in this are very off. Some of them sound fine, like Bugs and Sylvester and Tweety and Granny. They sound fine. They're and even Pepe Le Pew. Pepe Le Pew is fine, but characters like Sam and the Tasmanian Devil and even Daffy, they sound wrong. Like, it sounds like someone doing an impression rather than someone who's actually doing a voice for the character. It's very weird. I don't think it's the original voice actor. I don't think he's alive at this point. It's not that old of a movie. I think it was made in the 2000. But it doesn't sound right. It's very obviously not sounding right. And during some of these cameos, Sylvester does team up with some of these cameos. He teams up with the Tasmanian Devil, and he teams up with Sam. It's kind of funny. Sort of, in their own way. But yeah, again, nothing really happens. Although there are a few moments that are kind of weird. For example, when Tweety makes it to France, there's this whole thing about Pepe Le Pew chasing Sylvester because he thinks he is a skunk. Naturally, Menage a trois, all in that. With him and the other cat that he thinks is a skunk. And then when they get to, I don't really know where. I think it's Switzerland, Himalayas. It's somewhere in the Himalayas. They come across, Tweety comes across a cat cult that worships whatever breed of bird Tweety bird is. I can't make that part up. There's like a cat cult in the Himalayas that worship him, and where they're going. He's a canary, and they were gonna kill this one canary, a female canary, named. I'll get to her name because it's hilarious. And they were gonna kill her, and then Tweety shows up and it's like, "No, stop that, you bad putty tats." And he saves her, and we're introduced to probably one of the more odd cartoon editions. I say odd because this character, aside from this movie, never comes up again. Like, she straight up doesn't exist. Even the kids from the beginning of the movie, the ones that are wanting to save the park, even they have shown up in other Looney Tunes skits, at least in the future. But this one character never shows up again. Like, Babs Bunny, she showed up again. She became a regular character. But this girl, this female Tweety equivalent, she shows up in this movie and then vanishes into thin air. She's never seen from again. She's never heard of it again. And she's never even referenced. Like, nothing. And I can only assume that's because there was this huge joke about whether Tweety is a guy or a girl. But in this movie, they made it very clear that Tweety is a guy. And he even has a girlfriend named Auga. Yes, she's a Looney Tune character named Auga. And the reason she's named Auga is because her version of a bird tweet is a giant Auga. It's loud, it causes avalanches and glass to break. And she's orange, which again, it's just weird to me that she never shows up ever again. And whenever people are talking about Looney Tune characters, I always bring her up. It's like, oh yeah, no, I always enjoyed Awooga for the Tweety Bird movie. And they go, Tweety Bird what? And then they go, who's Awooga? You're just making noise. Which has always bothered me. I don't know why she never got more screen time in general. But aside from that, oh, and then the Himalayan abominable snowman in some of the cartoons shows up as a cameo to also save them from the cult. That's kind of it. It's just a series of Sylvester trying to stop him and eat Tweety and Auga, all while trying to keep track of the 80 days, and getting to them. And it's an innocent enough movie. But that's kind of all that happens. There's not much that happens in this movie. The final act takes place in like a hurricane, which is kind of cool because it's just a nice effect to see drawn. Tweety loses his tracking device and his sense of time, so they end up a day early, yada yada yada. And they almost didn't win because, oh no, Tweety only got 79 paw prints, and then Tweety's like, oh no, how did I forget Sylvester? And then he goes to get Sylvester's paw print, which the only other thing that happens in the movie is that near the end, Sylvester devises a plan to frame Tweety for the robbing of that royal passport. Remember at the beginning I said that there was a subplot with a pickpocketer? Which, oddly enough, despite the two, Mugsy and the mafioso characters that Looney Tunes has, despite them making a cameo in this movie, they don't actually team up with the pickpocketer, which I felt was a missed opportunity. But yeah, I know the pickpocketer does steal the passport, but they get it back because it's very obvious. Oh, this has Tweety's name in it. It's supposed to belong to him. That stupid cat tried to frame him, which means he must have stolen the passport. So Sylvester gets arrested and put in chains and shackles. Is going to get executed. I wish I could make that part up. But he gets the paw print from Sylvester, and by the way, that criminal guy, he doesn't go to jail. Sylvester does, for some reason. Weird moral, Looney Tunes. Weird moral. But yeah, movie ends innocently enough. Park gets saved. Tweety has a girlfriend that will inevitably disappear due to girl disease. Mm-hmm. And yeah, as a movie, it's okay. It's okay. It's not terrible. It made me laugh. I enjoyed some of the scenes. The characters are well written, and for the 2 songs that they had in there, at least one of them is pretty darn catchy. Is it a movie that I would go out of my way to watch? No. But as a Tweety Bird cartoon, pretty darn entertaining. I know that Tweety Bird is kind of a character that not a ton of people enjoy. Either you love him or you hate him. Some people believe that Tweety Bird can be a little annoying if you watch him too much. And if that's the case, I don't blame you for not ever seeing this. Because it is a Tweety Bird movie. But if you want to see a super long Tweety Bird cartoon or a really long Sylvester cartoon, this is actually the movie for you, and it's a ton of fun. I highly recommend it. I enjoyed it as a kid. I enjoyed rewatching it for this review, so yeah. All in all, pretty good darn movie. And a pretty light note to end before we move on to spookier things. Tune in next time. It's gonna get crazy.